the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to ChopStation. I'm excited to be back another week. We still have exciting content that's coming to you. Welcome to everyone that's here for the first time. Welcome back to those that have been with us before. This is ChopStation. We're a platform of love, knowledge, wisdom, and building. We're here. We come to you every Thursday at 7 p.m. sharp. We got a couple more weeks tonight and next week in this early part of season 2. Then we'll take a break to give you all a chance to apply all of this knowledge that we've given you, and then we'll be right back. So we're not going anywhere, but we don't want, as you know, I've been told many times before, you don't want to be as fat as a tick and you just got all the information, you're not doing nothing with it. So I want to give everybody a chance to do something with it. ChopStation is on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify. We're on YouTube. Do me a favor. Make sure you go to every medium and subscribe. We have a goal of trying to reach 100 subscribers per channel because we want to give this information out. Sending love to all my family friends that are watching. Sending love to everyone from Agape that has come to support Bishop and Dr. Odom, Pamela Odom, as she's speaking tonight, and support them. Let's continue as a unit to love people into new legacies. Okay. I want to make sure that you go follow Dr. Pamela Odom on Dr. for JC. So that's DRFOR JC on Instagram, as well as her IG. Last week, we began a series called Unlocking Your Mate. This week, we continue into part 2. Our guest again is none other than Dr. Pamela Odom. I'm sure you all felt the power, the love, the authority, the respect, the gifting, the calling. I mean, it was so much that she was dropping that you could feel it coming off of her last week to us with those nuggets. And I'm sure that you got wisdom last week. I don't know about you all, but I'm excited for this week. I've been receiving texts and emails all week saying, I'm excited. So we want to make sure we deliver on that excitement and let this wisdom continue to rain down on you and you grab it. So without further ado, first of all, Dr. Jeffrey, I want to send my love to Dr. Jeffrey because I know he's in the house supporting. So I want to make sure again that I am honoring the man of the house as well. Dr. Jeffrey, I love you. I appreciate all that you do. Dr. Odom, without further ado, let's get down to it. Let's get into it.
All right. Hello, everyone. Greetings to you tonight, this evening, and pray and hope that all is well with your lives, your family, and your loved ones. I'm going to go ahead and get started tonight. As I was contemplating on last week, I really was excited. I was excited about this week also, because there's one place that tonight that I'm going to go that I think that a lot of people have a hard time doing, and that's effective communication. And effective communication is very important in relationships, partnership, businesses, churches, anywhere you have to talk to someone. An individual must understand that they must learn how to communicate. And so I want to just talk a little bit about communication tonight. Communication, opening up and talking to your mate, your partner, your wife, your husband, or whatever, or wherever you need this communication, because communication is spread wide, it's facet, it's broad, so it can go into any place and make a difference. And because of that, that communication, when we effectively communicate, then we can get things done. I wanted to just give you just a small definition that I found on what true communication is. True communication is a two-way process. Many times when people are communicating, there are people who try to communicate. Somebody can come up and try to communicate with you, but It depends on the individual. It depends on the individual. When I say this, because it depends on the individual's culture. It depends on their upbringing. It depends upon situations and circumstances that have happened in their lives that they are able to communicate or they are not able to communicate. But tonight, I want to just do a little bit about that. Also want to know, talk a little about, this is what I want to start off with, because this is something that happened to Dr. Jeffrey and I when we were probably 10 years into the ministry. And it was not that, I don't think, it might have been, it could have been that we might have been having a little communication problem during that time. So there was this person who came into our, and this is what I want to call this active listening. And that was this individual that came into our lives, and she asked us, she said that, have you guys ever sit down and had an advocate to sit with you, and that you begin to communicate back and forth with each other and let the advocate be able to judge, what's what and what's not. So the real thing about what she was doing was she was trying to get each one of us to listen. Because if you try to communicate without listening, then you're probably going to communicate back the wrong thing if you're not really listening. So she did that with us, and we saw that in that process that we had not been really connected in our communication the way we should have been, because we were not really listening to each other. And so I think that's a big problem in relationship, or even trying to move to the next level in your relationship, trying to do the things that you desire, that both of you desire to do. But if you're not communicating, then it's going to be hard for you to move in those directions and be able to come together and reproduce what you're trying to get started. So I want to talk of that situation, but it would really help us. And that's why I would say to any person who's having a communication process is that come with someone who can advocate you, that can be an advocate or go-between, and begin to be able to hear what's really the real deal. Because just listening to us communicate back and forth with each other, she was able to tell us exactly what was wrong, just that quick. And we were like, whoa, wow. We had never thought that those things were a part of our communication until someone else hears what you're talking about and what you're communicating about. So I also want to talk about listening attentively. This is one thing that I do understand that a lot of people will say that they're listening, but they're really not listening. You need to listen attentively, even if you're not interested. Even when it doesn't even apply to you, even when you are bored. If someone is trying to communicate with you, that's the reason why I believe the world is the way it is right now, is because we won't communicate. We would rather go on and say, okay, yeah, you're right, move on, let's move on, because I'm ready to do something different. But if we listen attentively to each and every one, then we will be able to hear what that individual is really saying. But if we don't listen attentively to them, then we will go on thinking one thing, but it really was something else. So we want to make sure that we're interested, even if it's not important. We need to exercise patience to listen. Exercise patience to listen. I remember when we first started in our relationship, when you wanted that guy, you wanted that woman, and every time, you guys were on the phone, you would listen attentively to each other. You stayed on the phone all night long, till the next day, and you were just listening, so because she was so excited about the relationship. And so that same thing that applied then should have never stopped, because you were in that place. We were unlocking our relationship. We were unlocking a lot of things about ourselves. We told things about ourselves that we had never told anybody before. We talked about things that we would have never talked to anybody about. But because we wanted the relationship, and because we wanted those things to come into our lives, and we wanted that person, we just about did anything and said anything, and we were attentively doing it. So I think that's there, to be very patient when your mate is trying to say something. Be very patient when your boss is trying to talk to you. Be very patient when your pastor, your leader, is trying to talk to you and communicate with you. And a lot of times I believe that people can't receive, or don't know how to communicate, because the first thing people think that you're trying to be critical when you're just trying to communicate. You're trying to get them to see what's on your heart, what needs to be given or what needs to be taken away. It doesn't take anything from an individual to listen to what is being communicated. So I believe a lot of people dodge communication because they don't want to hear what the other person is going to say. And this is the thing, they assume that the person is going to say something bad, so they stop the communication right on the bad. Okay, the next thing we need to do, we need to share with them, even if it is the smallest, most trivial of all things. Like, for instance, you can come and say, well, just ask them, just communicate how you doing. Or when you walk, you feeling some kind of way before you get to the door. You ran down the road, you feeling some kind of way, and you like, oh man, I'm just not feeling this. But are you going to just come into the house and just feel that same way for the rest of the evening? Or are you going to get control of yourself? Because you got to get it out your body language, which you're going to get to that too. You got to remove those things from your body language so that when you walk into the house, some frowns are on our faces and they tell the whole story about how we really feel about something. But can we really, 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 really be able to share even when we don't want to share? Can we communicate even when we don't want to communicate? But because that is very important. And when we get a little bit further, you see what I'm saying. The more open you are to each other, and I can't say this enough, the more open you are to each other, down to the very bone of the matter, the healthier your relationship will be. Let me say that again. The more open you become, the more open you are to each other, the healthier your relationship will be. See, because you have to understand that even in communication, an individual has to learn to trust you, because a lot of people won't talk because they're not ready to talk. They're not ready to trust. So they will not communicate to the highest level that they really can communicate, with an individual. So if the person doesn't trust you, then they're going to try to cut off that communication process. They're not going to be able to keep continually to go on with you, and sometimes they won't even believe what you're saying because they don't trust you. So we have to always understand that trust is built over time. When I open myself, and I don't think I ever had a problem opening myself up to my husband at any time, because I was always kind of like a bold person. Really, let me put it like this: introverted because I'm a good listener, extroverted because I will say whatever that needs to be said. So I kind of like moved in both of them at the same time. So I didn't feel like that I was closed up or closed down and didn't communicate, because I believe that's what made our relationship what it is today, is that we learned to communicate early in our marriage. And now this is what happened in that situation. We didn't just come up with something and say, well, you know what? Oh, I'm going to communicate. We watched other relationships. We watched them flourish. We watched them grow. And the main thing that I took out of those relationships was that these people talk to each other. And I'm going to tell you, it's one thing that I see a lot of times that I'm out or about, and this is what I see right here. Sitting at the table, supposed to be eating dinner, supposed to be communicating with each other. You went out for the purpose of being alone. You went out for the purpose of wanting to be with each other, to talk to each other. But this is what's happening. The cell phone, the social media speaks to you and communicates to you better than the spouse that you're sitting in front of, or the mate, or the boss, or the pastor. It's always this thing right here that's hurting the communication in relationships. So I had to just throw that in there, because that's all I see. Families are out, and everybody in the family has a phone. The children got a phone. The grandmama got a phone. Everybody's sitting around the table with a cell phone in front of their faces. No one is communicating anymore these days in time. They allow the electronics to communicate for them. So we can't build trust like that. We can't we can't have someone to believe what we're saying and how we really feel when we will not communicate. Communication is key. We've got to actively listen to what's going on. The other one that we can do is a communication process is sharing an act of divine love. How do I share an act of divine love? You know, I want to tell some of you, you women. Let me put it like this, because most of the time this is what the guys do. I want to say something to a lot of you guys that have, you know, mates and so, you know, y'all got, you know, your relationships and stuff. When was the last time you did a divine love act? When was the last time? I mean, you did all of it when you was trying to get them. I know my husband did all those things when he was trying to get me, and he still continued in them. That's what I love about him, because he continued to do them. But I know that there are some people who have forgotten what is it going to do for you to go to the Kroger or the food line, get a bouquet of flowers on your way from work, get her some candy or whatever you know that she likes. Why don't sometimes you just show some divine act of love? That's communicating. You don't know, you never know what you're going to get out of that box of chocolates. It could be something real good and real wild that will come out of that box of chocolates, that will come out of the flowers that you're giving her, or will come out of that divine act of love. This is so important, people, that we understand that acts of love is communication. All that time, and I know a lot of people separate that, but communication is faceted, it's broad. And we can do a lot of things to communicate to our loved one that we really care about them, or to your partner, to your boss, to your leaders. We can do a lot of things to let them know that we really, really do love them. And that is a communication process right there, that we can divinely establish a love connection to let them know that we care about them, let them know that we love them and we want the best for them. Now, this one right here, this next one is really, really, because we kind of do this a lot. Criticism. Criticizing everything somebody does. Criticizing. Constant criticism is one of the biggest signs that your relationship is not faring well. If every time that your criticism comes out of your mouth, every time you criticize, every time you got something to say that it's not good. Now I have to ask the question now: is that person really that bad, or do you just have a problem? Because I think you need to ask yourself that.
Say that again, Dr. Odom.
Okay.
I think a lot of people, and the reason why I say that is because a lot of time you just made me think about the world today. A lot of times people criticize stuff, but is it truly the person that you're upset with? Is it truly the person that's doing something wrong? Or is it your mindset about what the person is doing?
Good
so
question.
I want you to
That's good.
say that one again so we can get that one for everybody in the back, the front, the left, and the right.
Yeah, that constant criticism could be connected to something that I believe that an individual sees within themselves, and they criticize their mate in response. And a lot of time, or it could be, and that's why I always tell this, or I say this whole thing, I tell people, say, whatever you're discerning in someone else may be locally found somewhere in you. And you're trying to discern them, but really in actuality, that same thing is in you, and you trying to get it off of you, trying to put it on somebody else. And so that too can, end up into that handling criticism, being able to handle criticism, because that one right there is very, 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 very hot. Because a lot of people think that they're doing something, but really they're being critical. They feel like that they are doing what this, that, and the other in their mindset, in their thought process, and even what they feel. But at the same time, it could be something going on the inside of them that is making them think critically, making them talk critically, and even acting critically. So this is a sign in your relationship that your relationship is not faring well. You end up becoming strangers to each other. That's what happens to relationships. Have you ever wondered what happened to the fire? What happened to the fire. Now I'm gonna tell you myself. I'm a person. I'm very, very, very bold and very, very progressive. I'm a mover and a shaker. And when it comes to the things that I know that belong to me, I'm gonna make sure that whatever I have to do, that it happens the way it needs to happen because it belongs to me. I just believe that's just my portion, as a mate or any mate. You ought to just know that this belongs to me, and I'm not going to let anybody have this. I'm not going to let anybody shake this up. I'm not going to let anything come between what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to create here. So you have to make sure you can take it. And that's the thing about you end up becoming strangers. And if you end up becoming strangers, then you have to understand and know that now your communication process is dampering. It is going down the drain. And a lot of people will just say, oh, well, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and the saved folks say, well, I'm just going to go ahead and give it to God. And then the people who don't have a relationship with God, they say the HELL with it and keep it moving. But at the same time, we cannot do that because we are in a place of give up then. We're giving up on what we work so hard to obtain, or what we work so hard to come into our lives. It made us happy in the beginning. It can continue to make us happy. We just need to communicate. Communicate about what you're not happy about. Communicate about what's not right. Communicate, well, why was it? Because the only thing you asked us a question, why was it like this in the beginning and it's not like that now? What happened to the bliss of the beginning of the relationship? And then you that are married, what happened to the phases? Everything phased out. And it could be for a lot of reasons, but I know a lot of it is because we've been handling criticism in a bad way. We don't handle it right. We don't receive it. We can't receive it right. It's something about having constructive criticism given to us. We just can't stand it. And people will shut down when you are critical. People will shut down when you're trying to even give them constructive criticism. And it does not happen just to be criticism. It can be constructive criticism to make them better, or to make them come up, or to make them understand that, you are better than this. You can do better than this. And we can make this thing do what it needs to do. So here you need to make sure you can talk it before you give it. A lot of people want to criticize and give constructive criticism, but can you handle it back?
Dr. Odom, I'm gonna take a break right there. That right there was a hot. That right there is a good point to just take a break. I can't even get my tongue right over here because since you've been talking, listen, I've heard active listening, listen to listen, not listen to respond. I've heard, being willing to hear from, like you all did. You were willing to hear from someone and yield to what they told you. You didn't buck against it and fight back and say, no, that's not what you see. No, that's not us. You all agreed, accepted it, and made it better. Not listening to comply, but listening to actually be a part of the conversation. Then I kept on. I don't know about anybody else that's watching, but I got a whole book of nuggets. I got cliff notes over here. Put your phones down, pick up your mate. The divine love acts, the flowers and the stuff like that. So I want to share this with the audience, and this is just how profound what that means. And to every guy that's listening to me, I made a promise to my other half that every week she would have flowers, and I learned that from my man of God. And reason why I said that is, if I cannot sacrifice to buy flowers every single week, but I can sacrifice to get me something to eat out. I can sacrifice and buy a car or do whatever it is that you desire to do, clothes, whatever your hobbies are, but you can't spend enough money to sacrifice on your mate a week. Something is wrong with that. So I appreciated you saying that, because a lot of guys and a lot of people don't understand that. And then I ran into a lady that said her husband has been doing that for 17 years. Can you imagine what 17 years of consistency breeds out of her because of something that he's doing?
Absolutely.
That's why you gotta watch the stuff and listen to what people are saying and not just let it go past you. It could be the smallest thing, like you said, that manifests. And then I heard you when you eat the last thing, and then we're gonna go to break. Was I thought about when you said the fire going out. So in the real world, in literal sense, if you put a campfire out there and you don't stoke the campfire is going to burn out. It's going to go out. There's no gasoline, there's no new wood, there's no nothing that you put on it for it to go out. So as it is in the spiritual, it is in the natural. You have to see like that. For everybody that's watching, understand that is that right there. If you didn't catch, you should have caught that. Continue to stoke that fire with whoever your mate is. Continue to do it, male or female. So I want to go. We're going to go real quick to a 1-30-second break. We'll be right back, and I'm ready for the second part of this fire. So we'll see you shortly.
Amen.
All right, we're back. Dr. Odom, you had some comments. I'll read them right to you really quickly. One of them was sometimes we put our issues on others, which is so unfair to them in a relationship. You also had the comment, criticizing will shut a man down from communicating. And then you had another comment that said, one of our biggest complaints is that men don't listen. So I wanted to give you those comments, and then we do have some questions we'll get to at the end.
Amen. Okay. So we go on. This is the last one with handling criticism. Not telling your mate what to do, but asking them. See, because we can get into that mode while we try to tell people. We try to communicate by telling them what to do instead of asking them, can you do it? Will you be able to do this? Instead of just saying, "Or you need to do this," well, you need to do that. But we don't want to go there in our communication with our mate, because that is a part of criticism that will totally lock the mate down, woman or man. It'll totally lock them down, because now you're in another state of communication that does not match what you are trying to build. And so we don't want to tear our communication down, what we built on, and to tear that communication down by coming in and being critical and trying to tell the mate what to do, and not really being sensitive to the need of the mate and just asking them what to do or how to do it, when you're going to do it, or whatever the case may be. You have to avoid harsh words and phrases. You have to avoid that. Now, I learned this early in my relationship. Because, I'm a strong voice. I have a strong voice. I have a very, very authoritative voice that I was just born with, y'all. It was nothing that I asked God for. It was nothing that I wished up on a star for. It was nothing that I wished up on the star to receive. And a lot of people can really, really take me the wrong way because of the harshness of my voice. And I really thank God for my voice, because I am his trumpet. And I believe that he's given me this voice to sound the trumpet. And whatever it takes to sound the trumpet, it's going to take a pull of a whirlwind, of a push of a great, great wind to get out to people what needs to be gotten out to them. In other words, my voice speaks and tells people that I'm not afraid of anything that's not of God. I just put it like that. So that's the reason that's what I have. So I had to, with my mate, I had to learn to be totally different when I'm with him. So when I'm at home, and a lot of people, I never forget one of my grandchildren was afraid of me because my grandchild only saw me behind the pulpit. So it's fire unlocked when I'm behind that pulpit, and when I'm doing blowing that trumpet, it's totally unlocked. Everything is just totally out there. But he would begin to cry if I would try to come up to him and hug him or kiss him, and he said, "No, grandma, no, grandma, no." And then I finally asked him. I said, "Well, why?" No, I had his mom or his dad to ask him what was wrong, why he didn't want grandma to touch. He said, "Well, I don't know. It's just that," but he couldn't understand the power behind the pulpit, so he couldn't put the two together that I could be granny and I could be God's woman. So he couldn't put those two together. But that really stuck with me. But when it came to my husband, when it came to him, I really, really learned to turn it totally down and soften it up, because I knew that he needed that. I knew that was something that he felt like that maybe in his life or in his upbringing or up into a situation or anything that came into his life, he might have had someone that was authoritative in his life. And that brought on maybe memories of that authoritative circumstance or situation. And that made him feel bad when I said something, when I really didn't mean, what was really being said. I really didn't mean it that way. But the way it came off like it was hard. So I started backing up. Now, when I'm with him, I stop and I present it differently. I stop and I think it differently. I stop because I don't ever want him to think that I'm bashing him. I don't ever want him to think that I'm being harsh. I don't want him to ever think that I am trying to control him. I don't ever want him to think that I'm trying to run nothing, because that is definitely not anything that I'm trying to do, because I understand my place. I understand who I am. I understand where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there. So in my home, I don't really even talk, like that when I'm at home. It's totally different. And I had to learn that because I wanted to make sure that he was not thinking that I was trying to criticize him every time I opened my mouth. So that's the thing right there. It could be tone. It could be the tone. And it could be that the man or the woman has had somebody in their lives. It might have been a mom, a father, a mother, or a brother, somebody who was really, really nasty and was always talking down on them with the huge authoritative voice. So I think that a lot of people get the wrong misinterpretation if that mate said something and that voice comes off of the wrong way. Okay. The other one is we need to be polite. Be polite. I look at this, I see people can be polite to everybody else. But when it comes to their mate, they can't be polite to them. They can be the lovingest people it's just amazing how people can be so loving, but when it comes to that mate, and you know why you can know that they're not loving like that with their mate, is because you can look at their mate's face. You can tell how he carry himself. You can tell how she carry herself. You can tell what she does and what she does not do, what he does and what he does not do. You can tell that there's no openness in their relationship. You can tell that he's tied down and wrapped up and tangled up in having to receive from that woman or that man things that are not edifying. So I think that we need to learn how to be polite to one another. I mean, that right there, that communication process right there, being polite. And see, I'm going to tell you, the best thing that you can do to learn to be polite is to be polite when you don't want to be polite. Sometimes, I'll throw that in there. Maybe you have to maybe fake it till you make it. And what I mean by that is that sometimes we have to push against our will to do something or to unlock something in us that we know that's already there. But until we unlock that thing will just stay locked up and we will never go any further with that. So we want to make sure that we be polite. We want to make sure that we understand their view. We want to make sure that they understand our view. Every person has a point of view. Every person has an opinion. But that doesn't mean that because it's coming from her, you don't want to listen. Or it doesn't mean because it's coming from him and you don't want to listen because you feel like that he's not in a place where he should be. That's not your judgment call. Because I'm going to tell you, every day is a change in relationship. I mean, I've been doing it for 40 years. I've had to change over and over and over and over again. I mean, for years at a time, for decades. Things do not stay the same, y'all. And that's what you have to understand. That's why you got to keep practicing these things that I'm saying tonight. Because things don't stay the same. There's always going to be change. On every end, on every circumstance, on every situation, there's going to always be change. So we want to make sure that we're viewing and understanding their point of view as a partner. Okay? As a partner. Never raise your voice or shout at your significant other one. Okay? You don't have to raise your voice and shout because they're not hard of hearing. But you have to make sure that your communication and your body language doesn't set off something that you can't control. Because once the words are out there, we say that some sticks and stones may break my bones, but words never hurt me. Oh, yeah. Words germinate. Words grow. You could have heard it last month, but it's been growing since last month. Those very words that embarrassed you, those very words that were spoken to you and it hurt your feelings. But this is the thing that I believe that in our relationship, that if we hurt each other, we need to communicate that to each other. Don't go off and don't go away from the individual and not communicate that you hurt my feelings. It's okay. It's okay to ask for forgiveness. It's okay to apologize. What that is doing is leveling you to a point where they'll be able to trust you more because they say, they apologized. I can give them a little bit more trust. Oh, they said they were sorry. I can give them a little bit more trust. It's all in building trust. This is what this is all about. It's all in building trust. When you bring yourself down and humble yourself, then things will begin to grow and things will begin to pick up in your relationship. Avoid arguments. Well, how in the world, Dr. Odom, am I going to avoid an argument? By not participating. I remember when I was coming up and we were coming up in relationship and if we would start to argue, it's because I want to know why. And my husband would never talk to me. He would never say anything to me. And I always wanted to know why. So I want to push it out of him. I want to nag him until he tell me what it is because I want to know what I did so I can correct it. So that's what I was saying. But really, that might not have been really what it was all about. I just needed for him not to leave me and not to go to another room or whatever the case may be. But I believe that communication process is very important in that area where we don't leave arguments in the air. Don't and see, and I'm gonna tell you, the argument can come. It can be just like an invisible smoke screen, and it will come into your house and it will breed there. When an argument happens, strife comes in, and when there's strife, there's every evil work when there's strife. And so what happens is that thing stays into your house. It stays there. And when other people come into your house, they automatically know that this is a quarreling house. This is a strifeful house. And there's no peace nowhere because you did not reconcile this argument before you went to bed that night. So what happens? That thing stays in the atmosphere. And I guarantee you that it will stay in the atmosphere. So when you avoid arguments, it leads to completion in the relationship. Oh, complete. Because everything that's complete is lovely. Everything that's complete is gold. It's nuggets. It's gems. Everything that is complete, you get the love, you get the care, you get the, and especially you get the sex or the love making, whichever way you want to call it. You get all of those things because now you are avoiding the arguments. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Now, some people argue just so they can make up and have sex. I never got that yet. I never have understood that one. But you have people who do that. We're just going to argue so we can just go ahead and make it up like that. But why argue? And why argue anyways when you can be polite, when you can be understanding, okay? Learn how to shape your tone of voice. And I talked about that earlier. Learn how to shape your tone of voice. it's essential that you understand how you are saying things. So that's very important, and I reiterated on that earlier. But the voice, shape the tone, shape the tone, shape the tone. If you don't shape the tone, then the house shuts down. If you don't shape the tone, then everything goes out the window. So we defeat what we've already worked on all week long. And then here we come with a tone of voice that's not presentable. Admit your mistakes. They are bound to happen. Oh, God. I done made so many mistakes, but I learned from my mistakes. I learned not to go there anymore. I learned not to participate in those mistakes any longer. I realized that those mistakes were against me and not for me. So learn how to admit your mistakes. When you make a mistake, just tell her or him, you know what, honey, I made a mistake on that. You know what, I'm sorry. You know what, I shouldn't have spent that money. You know what, I should have brought you into the place so that we could, do what we needed to do. I should have never hid all that money from you. I should have never kept it a secret from you. So that's a mistake. And that's something that you have to understand. You have to always have a forgiving heart. You got to always forgive. Do not allow yourself to leave a situation and you don't forgive. Never hash a grudge against your spouse or your partner. Never hash a grudge. Never carry a grudge. Don't allow grudges to come into your relationship. Don't allow grudges to come into your marriage. And I remember, I don't know if this is a grudge or not, but I remember that the silent treatment thing. Yeah, we shut down and get silent. And so we won't say no, we won't talk. I'm telling you, we'll even go to one whole side of the other room and not say nothing, just kind of like turn our back like that. I don't know if that's, but I think that's the silent treatment. I think that's communication. That's body language, right? Yeah. Yes. Were you finna say something?
No, I was just saying, yes, that's definitely body language. And that silent treatment thing, that's much more deadly than a lot of people understand.
Yes.
In a different realm, you got to think about it. When you're being silent, that whole atmosphere is manifesting that's around you. So you being silent and you think that I'm just going to be silent, nothing is going to happen. We're going to talk about it when we talk about it. But the whole time that you silent, there's a lot of talking that's going on that you can't hear and that you can't, it's in your, like you said, it's in your head. Mm-hmm. And those things and the thoughts that are going through your head are actually destroying you when you want to talk. So it's much more deadly than people understand.
Oh yeah. Because when the silent treatment comes in, that's the next thing, you get your butt on the couch. You don't sleep, you ain't sleeping up in here. You can do whatever you want to do, but you won't be in this bed tonight. So, it's so many things that come with that. And like you said, it's very, 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 very deadly. So we have to make sure that we don't do that. Spend a quality time together. Put everything away. Spend quality time together, dating, doing date night, doing things together. Because I think that's really because of both people are working in the house nowadays, that time together is very, very rare. By the time that individual goes to work, comes back home, and if you have a spouse who come home before you were there, and you come home and you done did 12 hours, and that other spouse is talking about let's spend some time together, and you like Japo used to do. Japo used to look at that. He make that noise. He said, and so you looking at them like, oh no, well no, I don't think so. But we have to make sure that we can spend that quality time. We got to make time for each other. We've got to make time for each other. And like I say, this right here will take time. This right here, you can spend hours on here when you could have spent them hours with your spouse or with your significant one. But you're on the phone strolling. This is an addictive situation here if you allow it. It will come between everything that you love. It'll come between everything that you know to be right, that you're supposed to be doing in a natural thing. This is unnatural. We make love to social media. Just like that.
Shut the Tamika, you on here? Yeah, we're gonna shut the book. right there. At this particular time, I'm gonna take a quick 30-second break so that you all can pick your faces up, your mouths, get yourselves together, because I'm pretty sure that probably hurt some feelings right there on that part. But I need you to get it together. Stay with us. We'll be right back in 30 seconds for the last part, and then we'll get right on into the questions. See you shortly.
Be bold. Be unique. Shop Jax. Be exclusive. Be one of a kind. Shop Jax. Be yourself. Be different. Shop Jax. Not the same that you're going to see everywhere else. Shop Jax. JaxFlyWorld.com.
Wow.
Okay, we're back. Thank you all for tuning in so far. I hope you enjoyed the first episode last week. If you haven't, go back and make sure you watch it. This episode of communication and everything else that is dropped in here of unlocking your mate has been awesome. Dr. Odom, we're going to pass it back over to you for the last part of the show. And then after that, we do actually have quite a few questions. So
all right,
those of you all that are watching tonight, I want you all to stay logged in. I know we're what, at 49 minutes right now?
Yes.
49 minutes of heat, fire, nuggets, and dropping. Rewind it, play it back, watch the video, do whatever you got to do. Make sure that you do not tune out until we answer all these questions, because one of these questions probably could have been a question that you might have wanted to ask. Dr. Odom, back to you.
Yes. Well, this is I'm about really finished up, because I want to stop here because I don't want to get into my next segment for next week, because that's going to be, and I can tell you my next segment for next week will be intimacy. But we're going to finish this communication here right quick. Spend quality time together. I told you that. Put everything away. Spend that time together dating. Spend that time together planning your future. Spend that time together loving on each other. Spend that time together being in the same room together. Don't be in, y'all, come on now. Don't be in the separate rooms. You know, he upstairs, she downstairs. He in the bedroom, she in the other bedroom. Don't allow that to enter into your relationship. Don't separate. Don't allow separation. And if he's somewhere, and like Dr. Jeffrey, if he's somewhere, I go in where he is. If I just sit down on the floor on the chair and just watch him, I ain't got to talk. He ain't got to talk to me. Just coming. I just go in there and watch him, because I want him to know that I'm there. I'm present. I want him to feel me. I want him to know that I'm available. I'm here. I always want him to know that. So I'm going to be somewhere he is. I'm not going to be separated from him, because everybody know you call Dr. Jeffrey, you Dr. Pamela going to be right there. You call Dr. Pamela, Dr. Jeffrey going to be right there. So you don't ever have to try to figure out where we are, because we always together. And I love it. I love it. It's really good for our relationship. So it says, touch not just when you can be together for sex. Non-sexual touching, non-sexual communication. Because I know a lot of people don't touch it till they go to bed and have sex. You ain't got no hugs during time before. You ain't even winding the woman up, or the man. You're not winding the man up for that sexual encounter, that intimacy, because there's no touching, there's no feeling, there's no hugs, there's no kiss, there's no I love you. I mean, I'm not saying that you can be in a habitual stance and talking about, tell him I love you, I love you, I love you. I'm not saying that. But if you love him, it will automatically come up. You ain't got to be trying to figure it out. You ain't got to try to be how you gonna put it. But if you don't have no feelings, then just be honest and say, I ain't got no feelings for that. I can't just tell him I love him like that. You and Dr. Jeffrey, you and Dr. Jeffrey, y'all definitely got a thing going on, because I don't know about all that. I mean, I've heard so many things I've heard people say when I talk about our relationship and when he talks about our relationship, people say, oh, that couldn't really be real. That's just a make-believe. No. I tell you the truth. I ain't walk with God all this long to be talking about a lying marriage. That's crazy. But these are things that are for real. These are things that we do. These are things this is who we are. So don't try to touch even before the sex. Don't talk things. Don't take things for granted. Hold her hand. That's a sign of a strong relationship and intimacy when you have contact. When you're touching each other, everybody knows that intimacy. And this is another thing I'm leaving. When it comes to intimacy, I'm gonna tell you, our Black relationships, You can tell that there is no intimacy and no relationship in the relationship because they don't. You see them walking down the road, either the man walking before the woman or the woman walking before the man. But you never find a bunch of black relationships that hold hands like our Caucasian persuasion. We don't do that. Start holding hands with your mate when you're out. Allow her to understand that you really love her. That girl, I'm glad you're by my side. Or man, this is what I always wanted. Show it, y'all. And my last thing, give time, sufficient time. That is, a spouse is more important than your work, whatever you got going on. Quality time is important. How does a woman spell time? How does a woman spell time? Togetherness. It is time. 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 And when a man starts together, he don't spell that with the same way we do, but he spells love by you being the woman to love him like you've never loved him before. Bring the king out of it.
Well. Dr. Odom, I'm still I've been speechless since you started tonight. This is amazing, and I hope everybody hears the excitement in my voice. And there's a couple things that you made me think of. So, audience, I have to tell you the story. The first time I met Dr. Jeffrey and Dr. Pamela, I was invited to come to the ministry. So I went to the ministry, open mind, and I left it. I said, there is no way they talk to each other like that. That is not real. Like, what this is, somebody's got some puppet strings and they doing all this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, I'm going to come back the next week and I'm going to see if it's the same way. Well, in between that, they had a second service, and I went to the second service, but I rode with elders in the church at the time. And I got in the back of their car and I said, they doing the same thing. Something is not right about this. Is fake. This just cannot be real. Because I had never been experienced or been exposed or experienced that in itself. But the truth of the matter is, we're 15, 17 years almost somewhere in there now, and it's the same exact way. When Dr. Odom spoke to you all about the presence of walking into the house, for everybody that's in this chat that has been to Dr. Odom's house, when you open the door, it's like a piece hits you. I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like you open the door, you take off your shoes, you just walking on cloud nine, you glide. It's a total different atmosphere. And for anybody that has been there, they will definitely attest to that. So I challenge the guys that are listening. I will definitely make sure I challenge the man at all times. Open the car doors. Open the doors for them.
Forgot about that. Sugar is not dead.
Hold their hands. Flowers, all that stuff. I need you. It's 2022. Let's prove that true love still exists. Let's not let the other stuff take us over, or the negative things that people have shown, or the negative facts of other people's relationships. You don't know what happens in their relationship. You don't know what happened behind closed doors. So let's focus on making ours and bringing back love. Let's really show it. Let's just not talk about it, be about it. Dr. Odom, I have some questions in the chat. Let me scroll back up because I appreciate you all for your comments in the chat tonight. It's just I'm reading it while Dr. Odom is talking. Okay. So let me see. Dr. Jeffrey had the very first one. And his was, why are people scared to share their heart with their mate, especially something they are disappointed in with their mate?
Is that the question he's asking?
Yes.
Why are people scared to share their heart with their mate? Because
especially when they're disappointed, especially something they are disappointed in within their mate.
Because they don't want to hear the real truth. That's bottom line. No one wants to hear the truth. And that's all I have to say about that. I don't got nothing else to say. They don't want to hear the truth. Excuse me. They don't want to hear the truth. So,
Dr. Odom, a follow-up to that, because there's another question that's very similar to that one that I'm going to ask right after that. So is it they don't want to hear the truth about themselves? They don't want the response they're going to get from the person to tell them about themselves, or they don't want They're worried about that response. Which way does that lean?
They don't want to hear the response that person's going to tell them about themselves.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. The next question was, when people share their disappointment, can that come over as criticism, or is that effective communication?
Oh, that's a good question. I believe that you can share your disappointment without criticism, because the individual that you're with should also know that there is a time that, like I told you, nobody's perfect, and that forgiveness is always at hand. And that the individual should be able to understand that I'm not, and especially if you are letting them know, I'm not trying to, criticize. I'm not trying to, say anything derogatory about what I'm about to say. I'm just trying to unlock some communication so we can, move further in where we're trying to go. So I believe that, I believe that I don't believe that would be a criticism point unless you, like I said earlier, unless there's some antagonism in your voice, some strife there. But if there's no strife, there's no antagonism in your voice, there's no unnecessary thinking process there. Yes, I believe that you can definitely do that without criticism.
Okay.
Because I've told my husband lots of times what I was disappointed in, and I've told him things that I didn't like. But that was all in to build the relationship, because I believe that it could be better. So I just voiced my better, for it to be better. And so he was able to receive that and understand that.
That's a key to what you just said right there. So I want to make sure that we catch that last part, because that's a nugget again. She stated that there were things that she was disappointed in, and she discussed because it was a relationship. It wasn't for you. It wasn't for him. It's always about pushing the relationship to a higher level. That's a good nugget at the end. The next one was If Trust, by Cassandra Watson. If trust has been broken because of ineffective communication in a marital relationship, how do you begin to rebuild that trust back?
First of all, I believe that both individuals need to understand that the communication process has become ineffective, because a lot of people think that they've done nothing. Now, the only way that individual will have to know that what you feel is that you tell them, and that let them know that it has been affecting your communication with them, because this is whatever the case may be. But I think a lot of people really just don't know that they are ineffective. They think they're doing a good job. And the reason why I think a lot of people do that is because we've let these things go for so long. Instead of reaching down and bringing the communication up the way it's supposed to be, we would allow things to just keep going and moving and saying, oh, well, I'll just have to deal with it. Oh, well, it must not be the time. Oh, well. But no, that's what happens. That's what brings the other person to think that there's nothing wrong, because you never said anything before.
Okay.
But it can be built. The trust can be built to back up once each of you know that the communication is ineffective. And that's just like, I said, well, why? And I'll come to, I said, well, honey, I said, well, this is what I'm dealing with. And this is what I feel right now. Can you help me with this? Because I feel the communication has been breached. That's the way I feel right now. He might not even feel that way. But what if he cares, then he will respond and say, okay, well, I'm listening. What do you want to talk about? What are you feeling on this? So I believe that both of them need to understand that, you can build that trust just by doing that.
That's a good question, and definitely a good follow-up. A lot of the comments in the chat were focusing on tone. Everybody was like, yes, tone is everything. Tone is everything. Tone is everything. But we did have one question about that. Trina said, that's a good one. How do you control your tone so that you don't yell or just your anger get the best of you?
Well, I believe that a lot of people are triggered. If you've been in a relationship a pretty long time, there are triggers that come up on you in the relationship. Triggers of the past, especially triggers of the past. If that spouse does something that triggers something in you, and you had not gotten over it in the past, then you will automatically raise up, because it hit something. It made something go off in you. So I believe that individual will have to understand that, step back, because if this is something that you do regularly, you know you do it. Well, when the time comes to communicate, you need to step back and assess the situation, assess what's going to be said, assess the body language, the communication process of the other spouse, and just see right there what's going on. Don't say nothing. And a lot of times in communication, you just have to just be quiet, especially if you're in a relationship that you get mad quickly in.
That makes, and I think about that and what you're saying, as far as the communication, and that leads me to my other question. What do you think, if you had to say for a male and female, what is the most common reason why males can't communicate and the most common reason that women can't communicate? If you had to, all your years of experience, what would be your top for each one? I just was curious about that.
Well, I believe men run from affection and responsibility, and women become Jezebels.
Everybody that's watching, I can end the show right there. We can hit in the studio, leave everything, go home. I dropped my pen. I don't know where it went to, so I don't have anything else to write down with. But that in itself says a lot, because men, I echo that, men don't want accountability. So, and accountability is that affection. They don't. It's something about us that's weird sometimes. Yeah, that's just the best way to put it.
And that definitely comes by fatherless homes, motherless homes. That comes by a lot of things that have happened in their past. Our black men have had to struggle. They have had to struggle so long behind a whole bunch of things going back, years and generations back years. But I believe that if a woman can, because that's a stronghold of a woman, is her mouth. A black woman, that's a stronghold in her. Her mouth is a stronghold. And if that mouth is a flip mouth, if that mouth is one of the mouth that'll cuss you up one side and down the other, and say all manner of things that come out of that, that's a stronghold on her part, where she tears down the black man. He don't need to be torn down anymore, because the first thing, when a woman opens her mouth and she got a flip on it, she got some burning in it, that's the first thing he's going to do. He's going to shut down, because he's already been deprived of his kingship, or being a king in this world, or in this society. So when a black woman comes and she says something to him that's sharp, then she just derailed him, and she just knocked him down 500 notches. He could have been on cloud 9, but because of her flip mouth and because of her mouth off on the chart, then that's what drives a man away. That's why they marry white women. Oh God, I didn't mean to say that.
You know what, Dr. Odom? The crazy part about this is you always said something. Y'all said something a long time ago, that when you get with somebody, you have to understand you're getting with generations of them.
15 of them on each side.
15 of them. So that's 30 generations that you're trying to combine. And then on top of that, you mentioned something earlier about something that you could say that could trigger them. So you have to think, that's 30 generations of something that you can trigger. Yeah. And you don't even know how you triggered it. So it's in that communication. I'm taking from these 2 weeks, the whole, Dr. Odom, you got the whole chat. They done flatline, mic drop, done everything. Hey, we real. It's ChopStation, guys. We love everybody, but we're just being real.
That's it.
Now, you said something, and everything that I've caught the last 2 episodes, tonight, last week, is your priority level. Your priority level of, it's to your mate, but your priority level is always pushing the relationship better.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily a person, but it's not being stagnant in your relationship, and it's growing your relationship, loving your relationship, and by doing that reciprocates down to your person. But it's always, if it's not good for the relationship, it's not good for me.
Exactly.
Because it's about the relationship.
It's about the relationship.
And I think in when you talked about that earlier, you look at this generation and you look at the world nowadays. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
broken homes, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of like you said, uh, fatherless homes. You see a lot more in some cases, fathers raising the children now versus the mothers, which
Mm-hmm.
is totally different. You just see things flip flopped in generations from where it used to be to where it is now. And you look at that and you wonder, okay, why is it like that? But you're the last 2 weeks and then Dr. Jeffrey's 3 have put
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things in perspective. I hope for everyone that is watching the show, everyone that is tuning in, it's going to require a change in
Yes.
mindset.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
requires a change in our mindset to get to the level that we want to get to. We
Mm-hmm.
can't look and see that this person does that. We can't look and see that that person does that. A lot of times we used to joke, and I know my generation, we would joke on people. We'd be like, "Dang, they always together. They can't do nothing." So I'm guilty of it. They always
Mm-hmm.
together. They can't do
Uh-huh.
nothing. Not necessarily you guys, but when we look at people our age, like you
Mm-hmm.
always this, you always that. But at the end of the day, is that not how it's supposed to be? Right? Like
Exactly.
the reason why you think differently is upbringing, mindset, expectations. But again, it goes back to what you were mentioning earlier, and all of this is hits head. We got one question, and we'll end after that question. Brother Tinch says, "Let me put it up." He says, "Why is being quiet and not responding such a bad thing, especially knowing it's going to lead to the possibility of an argument?"
Well, let me answer that first. Let me put that with the one with the comma behind it. Where there's no communication, the relationship suffers, whether it's good or whether it's bad. If you want to know, really want to know, then you communicate. Being quiet only kills or takes the breath out of relationship. I'm gonna tell you why that is, because I remember that when and this is key, when you don't talk, when you are quiet and you don't talk to a person, and that individual is your mate, that individual is your spouse or your significant one, and you don't talk to them, then that means that they're thinking things of you that even shouldn't be. And really the reason why they are thinking those things of you is because you have gotten quiet and you're not responding. So you bring on another level of distrust because, okay, where is that going? Okay, there he is again. Why that right there? Okay, I don't know what to do with that. So the moment the individual gets in their mind, I don't know what to do with that, the communication fails and the relationship sours anyways. So you do if you damned if you do and you damned if you don't. And I'm gonna leave it like that.
Uh, Listen, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been a wonderful show. This show has had me smiling and enjoying from start to finish. The nuggets we've got, the amount of engagement within the chat, the people that are having a good time and watching this and enjoying this and gleaning from this has been amazing. I appreciate you all again. Again, if you haven't liked, subscribe, make sure you go to all those separate channels and do that. I look forward to next week. Everyone watching, you already heard next week is intimacy. So when we combine these 3 with the first 3, listen, there's no reason that we should not have success in our lives, success in relationships, and success building legacy. So remember, this is always about legacy. Everything we do is legacy. You want, when you leave here, to have made an impact, because that impact carries through generations.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that we've dropped tonight and previously will continue to carry on through generations. um, Dr. Odom, I appreciate you again. Again, I can't wait to next week. So as always, everybody in the chat, thank you. As always, this is how we close. Love, live loose, do everything from your heart. ChopStation, peace.